You're joining us live here on India Today's social media handles. I'm Akshita Nandagopal, getting you all the top stories that we're tracking this Wednesday. And yes, everyone's talking about what's playing out right now in the state of Maharashtra. Every single minute there's a new twist, a new turn in this political saga that's playing out. But for all those of you who haven't really been tracking what's happening in Maharashtra, I'll just round up over the next few minutes as much as I can, because there's been so much that's happening and so many updates that have been pouring in. But let me sum it up for you and tell you eventually what's expected to happen in Maharashtra. It all began, in fact, if you look at it from the Rajya Sabha election and the legislative council polls, it was clear that there was some of dissent within the Shiv Sena that came to the public fore yesterday morning when India Today had reported for you about a handful of MLAs joining the very senior Shiv Sena leader Eknath Shinde, minister in the government as well. He in fact packed on a number of MLAs who were on his side and went off to Surat in Gujarat, who was staying at a resort. These MLAs and Eknath Shinde were essentially rebelling against Uddhav Thackeray, against the Shiv Sena. Why? They're saying that we need to uphold the Hindutva ideology of Shiv Sena. So they say Shiv Sena should join hands with the BJP. Something that Uddhav Thackeray is not okay with. And that essentially means that the crisis at play in Maharashtra, because the numbers are so delicately poised on the state. The Maha Vikas Aghadi, which is the Shiv Sena, the NCP and the Congress, they've always been just at the edge of holding on to power. And that's the problem. The fact that even the slightest of shake-up, slightest of stir, and they face a political crisis like no other. And that's what's happened now as well. If you look at the numbers right now, since yesterday to today, Shinde, as well as this handful of MLAs that he has with him, have flown down from Surat to Guwahati. So they're right now based in Radisson Blu in Guwahati. There are 35 MLAs that we've counted here on India Today. He says he has 40 MLAs. 35 MLAs is still a huge dent for the Shiv Sena, brings their numbers down to 29, which means that the Maha Vikas Aghadi doesn't have the numbers. But it also matters on where Eknath Shinde stands. Is he willing to join hands with the BJP? Most definitely. That seems to be the indication, going by all the comments, the statements by the BJP, by Shinde as well. He says he has 40 MLAs, and there's a need for that because he needs 37 plus to ensure he's not disqualified. This is extremely complicated whenever we talk about these issues, so I try to simplify it as much as I can for you as well. So he's saying that he has 40 because he needs 37 to ensure that this rebellion actually works, so that he's not disqualified from the assembly. So he's giving the number of 40 right now. But what's also important to highlight here is that the Shiv Sena isn't taking on Eknath Shinde. He's a very senior leader. They're recognizing that. And while they're saying that, look, we're not going to join hands with the BJP, they're also refusing to take him on. They're saying he's a Shiv Sainik. We'll talk to him. We've had conversations with him. And on one hand, you have Eknath Shinde being so firm, so rigid, so stubborn, saying, look, I'm not going to budge. And on the other, you have the Shiv Sena saying, we'll do whatever it takes. Sanjay Rao today comes out with a statement saying, zyada se zyada kya hoga, satta chali jayegi. That's the kind of mood within the Shiv Sena, and there seems to be indications that they've kind of given up in this fight. Sanjay Rao tweeted also about 1 hour back, less than that actually, where he's hinted at the Shiv Sena backing dissolution of the assembly. What does that mean? Dissolution of assembly essentially means that you'll have fresh elections, but with the caveat that the governor agrees to it. Now here's the other twist in that particular point. The governor is down with COVID. He's been hospitalized, so he's out of action briefly. So that means that even if the Shiv Sena is for the dissolution of assembly and wants fresh elections, they may have to hold off on that thought till the governor's back in action, unless a stand-in governor is placed, considering all the political developments that are happening. As far as the BJP is concerned, there have been a lot of allegations leveled against the BJP that this is Operation Lotus, Operation Kamala, which has largely gained the reputation of being a poaching operation. So the BJP has maintained that this is a result of Shiv Sena not dealing with the problems that they've had. They've demanded president's rule. They've said that no confidence motion should be brought in against Uddhav Thackeray. But this is going to be something that plays out in the long run. It's not going to get over in the next 24 hours. Even if Shiv Sena says that, look, let's dissolve the assembly, let's go with elections, that puts the ball in the governor's court. The governor is unwell. What happens then? So all of these angles need to be looked into. But Eknath Shinde at this point is camped in Guwahati. What's common about Surat and Guwahati? Both fall in BJP-ruled states. And that's another aspect that many have spoken about, that this essentially establishes that yes, there's a BJP link to all that's playing out right now. What also I want to highlight for you is how the NCP and the Congress have reacted to this, because obviously If there's a problem that the Shiv Sena faces, their allies also face that problem, especially because it's coming down to numbers. Like I said, things are very delicately poised in Maharashtra. The smallest of upheaval, the smallest of problems, and the Maha Vikas Aghadi loses the number that they have. So with the Shiv Sena now losing 35 MLAs, that means a huge problem for the government, right? It means that the Maha Vikas Aghadi doesn't have the numbers, especially if these MLAs are siding with the BJP. But the NCP and the Congress right now are saying, we don't want to get into this mess. It's interesting because the last time around, there was a political crisis in Maharashtra. Essentially, it was Sharad Pawar who came to the rescue. He turned things on its head, turned what the BJP termed as a victory to an absolute embarrassment for the Saffron Party. So this time around, people were thinking that, look, if anyone can salvage the situation, it's Sharad Pawar. But Sharad Pawar has had a conversation with Uddhav Thackeray. They've spoken about where numbers stand, and Sharad Pawar has reportedly told NCP leaders, his cadre, his party, don't indulge in this, don't get involved, let them sort out their issues. This is Shiv Sena's internal matter. And it looks like the Congress has taken a similar stand, because the NCP and the Congress don't have a problem here. They've not faced any sort of crisis. They've got their numbers intact. Not a single MLA from the NCP or the Congress has actually rebelled, and that's not surprising, because the largest problem that the Shiv Sena MLAs have spoken about when they've joined hands with Eknath Shinde is the alliance itself. They're saying, what's happened to our Hindutva ideology? That's not the same as joining hands with the NCP and the Congress. And the fact that now Eknath Shinde is saying he has 40, not 35. 35 is the number that we've counted from the MLAs who stood together at that resort in Surat. He says he has 40. So that means, according to him at least, there are more coming in from Maharashtra, there are more flying in from Mumbai, which means an all-out problem that the Shiv Sena is dealing with right now. If in fact 40 MLAs are with Eknath Shinde, it means that there are a lot more disgruntled Shiv Sena MLAs who are unhappy with Uddhav Thackeray, not necessarily with his leadership, but with the decision that he took of allying with the NCP and the Congress. So the only way Uddhav Thackeray can get out of this rut is if he is willing to ally with the BJP. And that's where Shiv Sena has drawn the line. That's their Lakshman Rekha. They're saying, we will do anything, but we will not join hands with the BJP. So there's no question of a re-alliance with the Bharatiya Janata Party. If that's ruled out, what next? It looks like they're okay with anything else happening, even losing power, even not being in government. This whole alliance will suffer, of course, but they're saying that's okay, we will not join hands with the BJP. And right now, Uddhav Thackeray will have to pull off nothing short of a miracle to be able to salvage the situation. The number of scenarios that we've played out here on India Today, there's perhaps only one in which Uddhav Thackeray comes out completely unscathed, and that is if he manages to stop this rebellion and stall it. That's not happening as of now. It could turn into a waiting game. That's his best bet. If it's a waiting game, it could be that the MLAs turn impatient and so then go ahead and join hands and return to the Shiv Sena fold. But that's a big if, one. Second, how does he buy that time? Because he's not got support. It's clear Eknath Shinde is very, very stubborn, as much as Shiv Sena likes to claim otherwise. So all of this doesn't work in Uddhav Thackeray's favor. That's why many analysts are now saying that the Maha Vikas Aghadi government, the Uddhav government, is on the verge of collapse. What will happen in the next few hours? It's going to be a very, very interesting political game to watch out for. Either way, everything that happens in Maharashtra politics is, sudden. It's when you least expect it. It's extremely unpredictable, and that's how it's always been. Nobody can ever guess what's going to happen next. So let's see if Uddhav Thackeray pulls off what I refer to as a miracle and manages to stay on in the CM throne. That's a story that we're non-stop covering here on India Today. You can trust us to get you the most comprehensive, detailed updates from the ground. That's all on this broadcast.